The ballroom of the Lancaster Grand shimmered under 1,000 crystal lights, each one reflecting the kind of wealth that could buy a small country. Waiters in pressed black and white uniforms moved like chess pieces across the marble floor, their trays balanced with glasses of vintage champagne older than most of the guests. Vincent Lancaster stood at the center of it all, his tailored navy suit cut with surgical precision, the faintest smirk etched into his chiseled face. He was a man who didn't just own the room, he was the room. People gravitated toward him not out of affection, but gravity. His money had its own pull. "Ladies and gentlemen," Vincent called out, his deep voice sliding easily over the hum of conversation. He lifted his hand, and in it was a guitar. Sleek, sunburst finish, the wood aged like fine wine. "May I present the 1959 Gibson Les Paul Standard, one of only a handful in the world and easily worth over $2 million. A ripple of admiration and murmurs rolled through the crowd. "This beauty," Vincent continued, "isn't just a guitar, it's a piece of history. And frankly, most people wouldn't even dare touch it, let alone play it." From the edge of the room, Elijah Brooks quietly wheeled his cleaning cart past a group of laughing socialites. His dark green janitor's uniform was spotless, but in this sea of diamonds and silk, it might as well have been a target. He kept his head down, eyes on the floor, pretending not to hear the casual comments that floated his way. Doesn't he know there's a staff entrance? Probably hoping for leftover champagne. Bet he's never seen a guitar like that in his life. Vincent's eyes, sharp and calculating, landed on Elijah. And in that moment, something cruel sparked. "You there!" Vincent called, his voice slicing through the air like a blade. The music died. Conversations froze. Elijah looked up, unsure if the billionaire was truly addressing him. "Yes, sir," he said carefully. Vincent's smirk widened. "Tell me, ever played guitar before?" "I have," Elijah replied, his voice low but steady. Vincent lifted the Les Paul slightly, the stage lights catching its polished curves. "Interesting, because this," he tapped the guitar body lightly, "isn't some bargain bin toy. It's a legend. People train their whole lives to play it right and still fail." He let the silence stretch, enjoying the attention. "In fact," Vincent said, his smirk turning into something almost theatrical, "I'll make you a deal. Play this guitar, play something that impresses me, and I'll marry you." The room erupted in laughter. Someone actually clapped at the absurdity. The words weren't meant to anything more than a joke, a public humiliation dressed as generosity. But Elijah didn't laugh. He stepped forward, leaving the cart behind. His eyes met Vincent's, steady and unreadable. "All right," Elijah said. "Hand it over." The laughter died just a little.
A stunned silence fell over the ballroom. The idea that the janitor had just accepted the challenge wasn't sinking in for most people. It was too absurd. Vincent raised an eyebrow, his smirk tightening into something that resembled irritation. "You're serious?" "As a heart attack," Elijah replied. A couple of guests exchanged glances, whispering behind their champagne flutes. One woman, draped in a sapphire gown, muttered, "This should be fun." Vincent tilted the guitar toward Elijah. "All right then, but be warned, if you scratch it, you'll be working off the debt for the rest of your life." His tone was half joking, half deadly serious. Elijah stepped forward, his hands clean but calloused, a worker's hands, not the manicured kind you usually saw at events like this. He took the Les Paul as if it were something sacred, running his fingers along the neck, feeling the worn frets. The weight of it in his hands was both familiar and dangerous. "You know how to hold it?" Vincent teased. Elijah didn't answer. He adjusted the strap, let the guitar rest against him, and took a deep breath. His fingers found their place instinctively, like meeting an old friend after years apart. The room leaned in. The strings were silent for a heartbeat, And then, a single note rang out. Pure. Clear. It floated through the air and cut straight through the chatter, the cynicism, the judgment. Then came another, and another, until Elijah's hands erupted into motion. He wasn't just playing, he was commanding. The guitar sang, wept, and roared under his touch, bending notes in ways that defied physics. Blues runs bled into flamenco flourishes, then into a cascade of jazz chords that no one in the room could follow, let alone replicate. Conversations stopped. Phones came out. Somewhere in the back a man whispered, "Holy hell." Vincent's smirk had vanished entirely. His eyes followed every movement of Elijah's fingers, searching for mistakes, and finding none. Elijah closed his eyes for the final run, hitting the high E with a bend so precise that it sent a shiver down the spine of everyone within earshot. He let the note linger, fading into silence like the last ray of light before dusk. And when he opened his eyes, the room was frozen. No one clapped. Not yet. They were still processing what they had just heard. And then, thunder. Applause broke like a wave, roaring and relentless. Some people even stood. Elijah handed the guitar back to Vincent with careful hands. "You said if I impressed you..." His voice was calm, but there was a spark of something. Victory, maybe, glinting in his eyes. Vincent stared at him, jaw tight. The bet he had made in jest now hung in the air like a guillotine blade. The applause still echoed in Vincent's ears long after Elijah had stepped back toward his cleaning cart. It wasn't just the clapping. It was the tone of it. They weren't humoring him. They were in awe of the janitor. Vincent's grip on the Les Paul tightened. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. He'd planned a light jab, a harmless spectacle to amuse his guests. Instead, he'd handed the spotlight to someone else. Somewhere near the champagne table, a voice said, "Got it on video." Another chimed in, "Post it. People have to see this." In seconds, phones were up everywhere, the soft glow of screens lighting up the dark corners of the ballroom. Fingers flew over touchscreens, hashtags multiplying in real time. Hashtag guitar janitor, hashtag strings of fire, hashtag play and merry. By the time Elijah wheeled his cart toward the staff hallway, the first video had already been uploaded to 3 different platforms. In it, Vincent's voice was crystal clear. "If you can play this guitar, I'll marry you," followed by Elijah's earth-shattering performance. Vincent's assistant, a wiry man in a gray suit named Carter, slipped to his side. His voice was low but urgent. "Sir, we've got a problem." "What problem?" Vincent hissed. Carter tilted his phone so Vincent could see. The video was already at 20,000 views and climbing fast. Comments scrolled in a relentless stream. "This guy is a legend. Vincent's gotta marry him now. Finally, a billionaire keeping his promises. We'll see." Vincent's stomach sunk. He could already imagine the morning headlines. "Billionaire proposes to janitor in front of guests. Now the internet wants him to commit." "Kill it," Vincent said sharply. Carter shook his head. "You can't. It's everywhere already. Someone live-streamed it." "Sir, you've gone viral." Across the room, Elijah had gone, slipped into the service corridor without looking back. But his music still lingered in the air, as if mocking Vincent with every silent note. Vincent straightened his tie, forcing a tight smile for the guests who still watched him. Inside, his mind raced. If this was a game, he had just lost the opening move. The service corridor was narrow, lined with cleaning supplies and crates of champagne bottles waiting to be chilled. The muffled hum of the party was still audible, but Elijah didn't slow down until he reached the staff break room. He set the guitar from his mind. At least, he tried to. But the feel of those strings under his fingers was still there, like a phantom touch. "Man!" came a voice from the corner. It was Rosa, one of the dishwashers, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes but a grin that could light up a room. "I've been working with you for 2 years, and you never told me you could do that." Elijah shrugged, pulling a bottle of water from the fridge. "It's not something I talk about."
Not something you... Rosa laughed, shaking her head. If I could play like that, I'd never shut up about it. Why are you pushing mops instead of playing stadiums? Elijah didn't answer right away. He lowered himself into the creaky chair by the vending machine, eyes fixed on the floor. I had my shot, back when I was 21. Got signed to a label in Chicago. Thought I'd made it. His voice was calm, but there was a current of something heavier beneath it. What happened? Rosa asked gently. He took a long drink before answering. The label wanted me to be something I'm not. They told me to change my style, play songs I didn't believe in, said nobody wanted to hear my music, just the one they could sell. Rose's brow furrowed. So you quit? I walked away the day they put another man's name on one of my songs. Took whatever jobs I could to keep the lights on. Playing for money stopped feeling like music. It felt like work, and I'd had enough of that. He leaned back, closing his eyes. Tonight was the first time I touched a guitar in front of people in years. Rosa studied him for a moment. Well, the internet just found out you're a damn genius. You think they're going to let you stay hidden? Elijah almost laughed, but it came out as a sigh. The internet forgets fast. This'll be gone in a week. But deep down, he knew Rosa was wrong. Somewhere above them, in the glittering ballroom, a billionaire was probably still fuming, and the rest of the world had just begun to watch.
Morning sunlight spilled across the glass walls of Lancaster Tower, tinting the marble lobby gold. Vincent strode in with the kind of energy that came from too little sleep and too much caffeine. The events of last night hadn't stopped replaying in his head. Not the music, not the applause, and certainly not the look on Elijah's face when he handed the guitar back. Carter was already waiting in his office, scrolling through his tablet like a surgeon reviewing x-rays before bad news. Well, Vincent demanded. It's worse, Carter replied, without looking up. Over 5 million views on TikTok, 3 million on Instagram, and hashtag #PlayAndMarry is trending on X. Late-night hosts are already making jokes about it. Vincent's jaw tightened. This will blow over. Carter set the tablet down with deliberate slowness. Sir, it's not blowing over. People aren't just watching. They like him. There's a petition with 20,000 signatures demanding you honor your proposal. Vincent turned to the window, staring out at the city skyline. The idea of being cornered by a joke he'd made in front of drunk socialites made his stomach knot. Where is he? Vincent asked, finally. Elijah? Yes, Elijah. Still working the morning shift at the Grand, probably mopping floors as we speak. Vincent grabbed his coat. Get the car. The Lancaster Grand looked very different in daylight. Less magic, more maintenance. The chandeliers were dimmed, the marble floors streaked with wet mop marks. Elijah was at the far end of the lobby, earbuds in, humming faintly to himself as it worked. He didn't see Vincent approach until a shadow fell over him. You're hard to find, Vincent said. Elijah straightened, pulling out one earbud. I wasn't hiding? Vincent's eyes swept the mop, the bucket, the faded green uniform. We need to talk, privately. About what? The video, the situation you created. Elijah actually laughed, short, sharp, and humorless. I didn't create anything. You're the one who made the bet. Vincent's voice dropped, quieter but colder. You think you've embarrassed me. You think this is some victory, but you don't understand the kind of world you just stepped into. I'm offering you a way out before it gets ugly. Elijah met his gaze, calm and unflinching. I don't need a way out. I'm not the one afraid of keeping my word. For the first time since last night, Vincent didn't know what to say.
The staff break room smelled faintly of coffee and lemon cleaner. Vincent stood out like a jewel in a dustpan. Tailored charcoal suit, silk tie, polished shoes that had never seen a mop bucket. He took a seat at the small table across from Elijah, ignoring the curious glances from a pair of line cooks passing by the doorway. Carter closed the door behind them, posting himself like a guard. Vincent set a slim leather briefcase on the table. "Let's be direct," Vincent began, his tone clipped. "Last night was unfortunate. I made a joke, it was recorded, and now the internet thinks it's some kind of romantic comedy." Elijah leaned back, arms folded. "And?" "And," Vincent continued, "I'm prepared to offer you compensation in exchange for a public statement. Something along the lines of, you appreciated the gesture, but you and I are not in any kind of agreement. We'll both go our separate ways, and the world will move on." He snapped open the briefcase. Inside was a neat stack of $100 bills, the kind of cash that could change a janitor's year, or more. $50,000, Vincent said smoothly. "Tax-free. Yours today." Elijah stared at the money for a moment, then back at Vincent. His face didn't change. "You really think this is about cash?" Vincent's brow furrowed. "Everyone has a number." "Not me," Elijah said quietly. "You humiliated me in front of a room full of people who already thought I didn't belong there. I played because I wanted to prove them wrong, not to get rich." Vincent's jaw tightened. "You're not proving anything by dragging this out. You'll be a meme for a week, and then no one will care. Take the money and keep your dignity." Elijah's eyes hardened. "Dignity isn't something you buy, Vincent. And if anyone's lost theirs here, it isn't me." The words hung in the air like a cord struck too hard. Vincent closed the briefcase with a snap, standing abruptly. "This isn't over." Elijah smiled faintly. "No, it's just starting."
By Wednesday morning, Lancaster Grand's polished marble lobby had turned into something it had never been before: chaotic. A small crowd of people with smartphones clustered outside the main entrance, some holding handmade signs. One read, "Play and Marry." Another, "Strings Don't Lie." Inside, two security guards were trying, and failing, to usher a pair of vloggers back to the sidewalk. One of them was live streaming. "We're here at the Lancaster Grand, hoping to catch the guitar janitor himself." Elijah emerged from the staff elevator, mop in hand, and froze. Heads turned. Camera lenses pivoted. "There he is!" someone shouted. Within seconds, questions flew at him from every direction. "Are you going to marry Vincent? Will you play again for us? Is this all a publicity stunt?" Elijah tightened his grip on the mop handle, trying to keep walking. "I'm just doing my job," he muttered. But just doing his job had stopped being an option. Someone shoved a microphone in his face. A woman in a sharp red blazer introduced herself as a reporter from Channel 8 News. "Mr. Brooks, do you feel pressured to accept the Billionaire's proposal?" He stopped, turned toward her. "I don't feel pressured to do anything. Last night was about music, not marriage." That clip hit social media within minutes, alongside slow-motion footage of him playing the Les Paul, paired with captions like "The Humble Legend" and "Vincent Can't Escape This." Meanwhile, 30 floors above, Vincent sat in his glass-walled office, staring at a news segment looping silently on the big screen. Carter stood by the desk. "You're not going to like this." "Already don't," Vincent replied. "They're calling you a coward for not following through. And it's not just local, it's international now. A UK paper ran a headline this morning, 'Billionaire backs out of bet to marry musical janitor.'" Vincent's hand curled into a fist. "Do they not understand it was a joke?" Carter gave a pointed look. "The internet doesn't do context, sir. They do clips. And that clip has already been remixed into a song that's climbing on Spotify." Vincent turned toward the window. The city spread beneath him. "Then we give them a new clip," he said finally. "Something that changes the narrative." "And how do you plan to do that?" Carter asked. Vincent's lips curved into the faintest smile. "By making Elijah Brooks play for me again, on my terms this time." 2 days later, a sleek black envelope appeared in Elijah's locker at the Lancaster Grand. The paper was heavy, the kind used for wedding invitations or royal decrees. Inside was a single card. You are formally invited to perform at the Lancaster Foundation Gala. Saturday, 8 p.m., black tie. And at the bottom, in a signature so sharp it looked like it could cut glass, Vincent Lancaster. Elijah stared at it for a long time. No explanation, no request, just an order disguised as an invitation. When Rosa passed by, she whistled low. "That looks expensive." "It looks like trouble," Elijah muttered. By Saturday night, the trouble had a shape. The Lancaster Foundation Gala wasn't just a charity event, it was a media circus. Camera crews lined the red carpet, snapping photos of celebrities and power brokers. The theme was harmony in the city, but the whole thing felt like a chess match played in silk and champagne. Elijah stepped inside, wearing a black suit Rosa had insisted he borrow from a friend. The room glittered, but so did the glares from people who clearly remembered him as the janitor who embarrassed Vincent. At the center of it all, on a raised stage, stood Vincent, flawless tuxedo, smile as polished as the grand piano behind him. When he spotted Elijah, that smile widened into something a little too perfect. "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we celebrate not just music, but second chances. And what better way to honor that than with a performance from a man whose talent stunned us all?" Polite applause rippled through the crowd. "Elijah Brooks will join me in a duet, right here, right now." Elijah's eyes narrowed. A duet? That hadn't been in the card. A stagehand handed him a guitar, not the '59 Les Paul, but a cheaper, newer model, still decent, but nowhere near the voice of the legend he'd played before. He instantly understood the move. Vincent was stacking the deck, setting him up to sound ordinary in front of a room full of cameras. Vincent leaned in just enough for Elijah to hear. "Let's see how well you play without your precious vintage toy." Elijah smiled faintly. "Fine. Let's see how well you keep up." The lights dimmed, leaving only the stage bathed in warm gold. Cameras shifted toward the two men, the billionaire in his tuxedo at the grand piano, and the janitor-turned viral phenomenon with a mid-range guitar slung over his shoulder. Vincent struck the opening chords, a slow, deliberate jazz progression that was technically correct, but emotionally hollow. His eyes flicked toward Elijah, the unspoken challenge clear. "Follow my lead." Elijah followed. At first, he kept it clean and simple, matching Vincent's rhythm without flourish. The room relaxed. Some of the guests smirked, already predicting that lightning wouldn't strike twice. But then Elijah shifted. His fingers slid into a run of notes that wrapped around the piano's chords like ivy around stone, twisting, reshaping, giving them life they hadn't had before. The melody soared, dipping into blues, then climbing into something raw and electric. Vincent's jaw tightened. He responded with a flourish on the keys, but Elijah mirrored it instantly, weaving it back into the guitar line with an ease that made it seem as if he were leading and Vincent was chasing. The crowd began to murmur. Phones went up. The duet was no longer polite. It was a duel. Vincent leaned into the piano, trying to overpower him with speed. But Elijah didn't bite. Instead, he slowed down, bending a single note until it felt like the whole room was leaning in to hear it resolve. The control was masterful, the kind that couldn't be faked. Then, with a half smile, Elijah shifted into a riff from one of the most iconic guitar solos in rock history. The crowd gasped in recognition. Vincent froze for half a beat, just long enough for everyone to notice. By the time the final chord rang out, it was clear to everyone who had won. The applause was thunderous, louder even than the night of the original bet. People were on their feet. Elijah handed the guitar to the stagehand, nodded once to Vincent, and stepped down from the stage without another word.
Vincent sat at the piano, staring at the keys, as the clapping washed over him, not for him, but for the man walking away.
The morning after the gala, Vincent sat at his kitchen island, coffee untouched, while the flat screen on the wall cycled through news clips. Last night's Lancaster Foundation Gala gave us more than charity, it gave us a showdown. Billionaire Vincent Lancaster faces another loss against the so-called guitar janitor. Fans now calling for a final showdown to settle the bet once and for all. Every clip replayed the same 30 seconds, Vincent faltering mid-piano, Elijah swooping in with that flawless, crowd-stealing riff. Carter arrived, tablet in hand, his expression the same weary mix of loyalty and dread. "You're trending in 32 countries," he said without preamble. Vincent didn't look up. And Carter hesitated. "Half of the trending posts are memes of you looking confused at the piano." Vincent's jaw tightened. "They think this is funny." "They think it's unfinished," Carter corrected. "The narrative is shaping itself without you. Everyone's talking about a third match, one that finally decides who's the real master. They're already calling it the final act." Vincent set his cup down with a sharp clink. "There is no final act. This was never a real competition." Carter gave him a long look. "Then why do you keep losing?" Across town, Elijah was walking home with a paper bag of groceries when a pair of teenagers jogged up to him. "You're Elijah Brooks, right?" one asked, grinning wide. "Dude, you killed at the gala. Can we get a selfie?" Elijah smiled politely, posed, and kept walking. But as soon as he reached his apartment, his phone buzzed with a new message request, from a name he hadn't seen in years. Dana Cole. He froze. Dana had been his old music manager, the one who'd tried to fight for his career before it all collapsed. The message was short. "Saw the videos. The world's watching you now. Call me. We can do this right this time." Elijah set the phone down, staring at it. Outside, car horns and city noise filled the air, but inside his head there was only silence and the faint, insistent echo of a crowd chanting for one last performance. By Friday morning, the noise was impossible to ignore. Every entertainment outlet, music blog, and talk show was running the same story. Lancaster versus Brooks, the final showdown. The hashtags were relentless. Hashtag final act. Hashtag play and marry. Hashtag music duel trended in unison. Reaction videos flooded TikTok, fans dissecting every note from the gala, others cutting together slow-motion clips of Elijah's smirk when Vincent stumbled. In Vincent's office, Carter laid a stack of printouts on the desk. Sponsors are calling. Some want in. Others are threatening to pull out unless you look like the villain. "I'm not agreeing to this circus," Vincent said flatly. "You don't have a choice. The mayor's office wants to host it at the Civic Hall. Charity, fundraiser, televised event. You turn it down, you look scared. You accept, you control the terms." Vincent swiveled his chair toward the window, watching the city below. He hated being cornered, but he hated the idea of Elijah walking away with the last word even more. "Fine," he said finally. "Book the hall. I'll set the rules this time." Across town, Elijah was sitting in a coffee shop with Dana Cole. She looked the same as she had years ago. Sharp eyes, sharper instincts, but there was a warmth in her smile he hadn't seen in anyone from the industry in a long time. "You've got them in the palm of your hand," Dana said, sliding a folder across the table. Inside was a stack of contracts, sponsorships, TV rights, merch deals. "This isn't just a performance, Elijah. This is a comeback." Elijah took a slow sip of coffee. "I didn't ask for a comeback." "No," Dana said, "but you've got one anyway. The only question is, are you going to let Vincent control the ending, or are you going to write it yourself?" That night, both men received the same official announcement from the Civic Hall. The final act, Elijah Brooks versus Vincent Lancaster, live, one night only.
Proceeds to benefit the City Arts Fund. No backing out, no excuses. Elijah read it once, then set his phone down. Somewhere across the city, Vincent was probably reading the same words. Neither of them knew it yet, but the world wasn't tuning in for a winner. They were tuning in for a story.
The Civic Hall pulsed with anticipation. Spotlights roamed over a sea of faces. Socialites in evening gowns, teenagers in band tees, news crews jockeying for position. Backstage, Vincent paced in his tailored suit, jaw tight. Carter hovered nearby. "You know the plan," Carter said. "Stick to the arrangement. Don't let him pull you into improvisation." Vincent didn't answer. He was staring at the guitar on its stand, the same vintage model Elijah had played at the gala. It annoyed him that just looking at it made his palms sweat. Across the hall, Elijah sat on a crate, guitar in hand, eyes closed. Dana crouched beside him. "You don't need to beat him. You just need to be undeniable." Elijah smiled faintly. "Same thing, isn't it?" The MC's voice boomed over the hall. "Ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've been waiting for, the final act." The curtain rose. 2 chairs, 2 instruments. Vincent at the grand piano, Elijah with his guitar. The audience roared. They started with Vincent's chosen piece, a thunderous classical arrangement, precise and powerful. Then Elijah followed with a jazz improvisation so fluid the crowd erupted mid-song. Then, without warning, Vincent shifted into a blues progression, not on the program. Elijah's eyes narrowed. So that's how it's gonna be. For the next 10 minutes, the music became a duel and a conversation. Piano chasing guitar, guitar answering with flourishes that bent the rules. There were moments of aggression, moments of almost fragile beauty. By the last note, no one knew where Vincent's playing ended and Elijah's began. The crowd was on its feet, chanting for more. But the MC stepped forward. "Gentlemen, the wager. We all know the story." Gasps swept the hall. Dana's head snapped toward Elijah. Carter muttered a curse under his breath. Vincent stood, straightened his jacket, and walked toward Elijah. "I made a foolish bet, and tonight I lost again." He paused, looking Elijah dead in the eyes. "But if you think I'm going to honor that marriage clause—" The audience leaned in. "Then you're underestimating me." Vincent finished, then broke into a smirk. "I don't just honor it, I upgrade it. Elijah Brooks, will you partner with me, not as a trophy, but as an equal, to build the best damn music label this city has ever seen?" The room froze for half a beat, then exploded in cheers. Elijah chuckled, shaking his head. "Guess I can't turn down a proposal like that." Later, as the press swarmed them, Vincent muttered under his breath, "Don't get used to winning." Elijah grinned. "Wouldn't dream of it." And somewhere in the noise, the mockery that started it all was gone, replaced by something that felt suspiciously like respect.